Hi everybody. I'm just going to do a very quick video just to show how we can kind of change our permissions or change our privileges from root down to a different user, which might be our effective user, perform some specific tasks on what they're trying to do. So for our example, they're trying to copy a file from one directory to another. So we're trying to check whether or not a particular user can copy a file into our intranet directory. So, maybe we might have someone assigned to the sales directory. So they're in the sales group, and someone else might be in the promotions group. And we're going to try and limit access. So we're going to run our program as root, try and change to a specific user, try copy the file, and depending on the privileges we've given to a particular user account, we're going to have a boolean, whether it's a boolean operation, whether or not the file's going to copy it or not. And I just kind of want to show this working. I know I've got a couple of queries with this, and I know everyone's been busy with their FYPs and they run into it for the past couple of weeks. So I'm just going to demo this, what's involved with it. So I know we've looked at the different types of groups, creating groups, interrogating the groups a particular account is associated with, being able to get someone's group ID, their user ID, and being able to perform some of the basic operations with it. Okay, so I'm just going to run through a very quick example, just show this working, and hopefully you'll be able to apply this back to your own project as well. Okay, so I'm just going to clear, so I have two windows that I'm going to operate out of, and I'll just clear the two of them out. And I've left the little paths down the bottom here, so we can see where we are. So I'm operating out of a folder in my Debian environment called CA2. Absolutely fine. And I've logged in here. This window is operating as root. So I'm going to run the program with root privileges, swap to a different user, and try and perform a specific task. Okay. So hopefully I'll try and let's see if I yoink. Okay, cool. So there's two systems calls that we can use to make our life a little bit easy with this. Okay, we can call get group list, and it's going to give us a list of groups that a specific user account is listed with. So that's really what we're after. Inside our C program, we can actually ask what groups is this user linked with. And once we can figure out that list, we can call another system call, which is set groups. That's going to set the groups that are associated with a particular user, and if they try to copy a file to that particular directory, they'll be allowed to. So I know I've got a couple of queries in the past couple of days, and people were like, okay, cool, it works in terminal, but it won't work when I run it in my C program. And I think that's where we're getting a little bit caught with it. It's just down to set groups. We need to set the groups. We can swap, we can change our effective user ID and our group IDs and whatever we want. We still need to set the groups as well. Okay, so I'm going to demo that working now. Okay, cool. So I'll just run down through the little example I have. Okay, so it's pretty basic. So we'll have to fill in some of the gaps ourselves for our own CA. Okay, cool. So, okay. So let's say I'm just going to store an array of characters, which is going to be our string, and that's the command we're going to run. So that's going to be our CP command. Okay, I have an integer value that I've called my UID, and I've initially set that to be 1001. Okay, so on my system, 1000 is J McCarthy, 1001 is M McCarthy. Okay, well, I think we're all familiar with that from some of the examples we've run in class. I have created another array which is linked with the GID underscore T struct. So this is going to be our supplementary groups that we're going to basically add. So we're going to change the permissions, we're going to change someone's privileges, we're going to set the groups, we're going to store them here. So we've just basically declared a blank array at the moment. I have two integer values, one for n groups. I use J for my for loop later on. I have another one which is my GID underscore T struct, and I'm linking that with groups, and we're just going to use that to loop through some of our stuff. Okay, So I'll show that now in a sec. So I've set my n groups to 10. So I've basically said, yeah, for the example I'm running, a user won't be part of more than 10 groups. So I've just hard coded some of this for the example, okay? And then I've just allocated some memory for that. So it's just completely random. I've just made my life a little bit easier with this, okay? So here's where the fun begins. I'm going to call my system call or my function for get group list. I'm specifying that I'm interested in M. McCarthy. Oh, okay, cool. That's the username. The ID of M. McCarthy is 1001. I've specified my groups. Oh, okay, cool. That was my structure. Okay, excellent. So that's basically going to be my return. It's going to be an array of groups that are going to be returned with all the information associated with it. And then I've passed in n groups. So that's my, I think we set it somewhere to be 10. Okay, so we call this and it's going to populate groups. So it's basically going to return all the groups that M. McCarthy's linked to it. Nice and easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be a little bit clever and I'm going to loop through the return. So I've for j equals to 0, j is less than n groups, that was our 10. And I'm saying that into my array, which I'm calling my subgroups, my supplemental groups, I'm going to store in groups of j. So groups of j is going to return the ID associated with a given group. So if I was to say, oh, okay, cool, what group was the intranet folder working with? So all good questions. So I'm just going to go back to a terminal window. I'll do this as root. Cat. Just going to see what my groups are. So a number of different ways we can do this. Oh. Okay. So we can see down the bottom here, intranet is linked with 1009, and we see that Sarah, Jane, John, Tommy, and M. McCarthy's in there. Okay, so we'll take note of that. And we see there for my sales, so these are the directories that I'm operating off as my groups. So into my sales directory, I've added in Sarah and J. McCarthy. Into marketing, I have John and Jane. Products is Tommy. And intranet seems to be everyone except J. McCarthy. Okay, nice. So we'll use the intranet folder and sales just to have a little bit of fun, okay? So absolutely nice. So what we're getting that when we're looping through here, we're basically taking the IDs of the groups that we have, and I've actually just printed them out so we can actually see what they are. Okay, so a little bit of a printf here, and it's going to tell us what we have. Okay, so that's basically gathering up or populating an array that we have called subgroups, and these are the groups that are linked with that particular user. Okay, so I'm remembering 4 pieces of information. So I've the user ID, the group ID, the effective user ID, and the effective group ID. So I want to remember who I am, because eventually I'm going to have to want to swap back. Okay, and I'm going to print them out so we can see what they are. I'm going to do my little change. So I suppose the best way to look at it might be that I'm going to try and change from root, which was 0, to be 1001, which is M. McCarthy. Okay, so the first thing I call is set groups, and I'm saying that my max is 10 and I'm passing in my array, so just hard coded. Okay, I'm going to set my effective user ID, effective group ID. So I'm just basically, I'm going through the process of my system calls here to, my real and effective user IDs have just been changed. Okay, so the first 2 are my reals, the second 2 are my effectives. Okay, and for questioning then what's that actually doing for us, then we print them out again. So absolutely fine. Then I am going to populate my little command. So that was the little character array that we created earlier on. So I'm going to copy a file from my temp directory. So I've created a file in temp called myfile.txt. So I don't really care where that's coming from. I just didn't want to be keeping files. So as soon as I lose my session, I'm going to lose my temp file. So cp from the temp directory myfile.txt, and I'm going to copy it to somewhere. Okay, so okay, cool. I have 2 versions. So I have my system, and I've my exec. Okay, so for my exec, I'm actually commented out system. I'm not actually using my command, which is even better. If I want to use system, then I uncomment and off I go. If not, I've just hard-coded in some of my values here. So I'm trying to copy a file from the my temp directory into var wwroot html intranet sales myfile.txt. Okay, excellent. So I'm just going to swap back, and we can see that sales is only linked with Sarah and M. McCarthy. Okay, now we're going to run this, and we're going to try and run it as M. McCarthy. So M. McCarthy has an ID of 1001. So we've already set that. So it's already been set up to work for M. McCarthy. Now, the one thing I am going to do is I'm just going to see what's actually in those directories first and foremost. I'm going to do an ls-al on var html intranet and sales. Okay, myfile.txt is there, so I've already run the program, so I'm going to get that out of the way. Rm myfile.txt, and I'll run the command again. Don't believe anything. Okay, cool. So hold on, Alice. So let's just run that again. So rm, I'm trying to remove from the directory I'm in. So it's var. I'm looking at it funny, wondering why it's not removing. That's because I'm in the wrong directory. Okay, cool. Okay, now it's gone. So it's not there, okay? So we can see there, we've done the ls on it. I'm in the sales directory. There's an index.html. There's a sales.html. There's nothing else. Now I'm trying to get my program to run and copy from the temp directory to the sales directory using the account privileges of M. McCarthy, which is an ID of 1001. Okay, so I'm just going to compile my program just in case. Okay, cool. So I've called my program permissions. So that's my output. Excellent. So you can see it's all run. So up here is the little output from the for loop. So these are the groups that M. McCarthy is associated with. So it's 1001, which is its own group. It's like its own home directory, home folders, etc. And we have 1006 and 1009. Ah, cool. 1006 is sales. 1009 is the intranet. Excellent. So we've tried to copy to 1006. Okay, excellent. So haven't got an error, so I'm going to gamble on going back to my ls on my sales directory. Ah, excellent. And I have myfile.txt, and it's been linked to M. McCarthy. Now, I know I have my 0 here, so potentially if I wanted to get root out of the way as creator, I can change that as well. I'm not going to demo that here, okay? So I have no real major issues with that. So the file has been copied in, and the appropriate privileges to perform such a task are fine, okay? So I'm just going to remove that again. So it's gone. Let's just see that it's gone. Okay, perfect. I'm going to go back to my program. So I'm going to try and swap from M. McCarthy to J. McCarthy and see if J. McCarthy can copy something to the sales directory. Now, J. McCarthy isn't in the sales group, so this shouldn't happen. So I'm going to save that. Go back to my friend here. Okay, cool. So recompile. So I'm going to clear this and go through my little sequence. Make sure. So this is the sales directory. The file isn't there, which I'm happy with. I have recompiled. So I'm going to run the program. Ah, that's the error none of us like to see. So CP cannot create regular file, whatever, permissions denied. So brilliant. It's not copying it. and I don't want it to copy it because Jay McCarthy shouldn't have access to the sales directory. So this is a task that Jay McCarthy shouldn't be able to perform, okay? So that's blocked us off. So you can see here that these are the groups that Jay McCarthy are linked with. So it's basically its own 1000 plus some of the basic system defaults, okay? Fine, but none of them are any of our folders in our intranet, okay? So absolutely fine. So that's showing us the basic operation of what we're after, and eventually when the program finishes it swaps back. So it'll go back from 1000 back out. Okay, I just want to check one thing there. Let me just see. Let's go back to my code. So I've set my 1000. Okay, cool. Now I was kind of wondering why 1001 was listing for me. So if anyone was wondering, he said he was running off 1000. I've set my UID to be 1001. So that's why that was displaying there for us. We're just hard coding the 1000 in here. So just in case there's any doubt, we'll run it again just for a bit of fun, okay? So I'll go back. So we'll call this a test run 2. So there's our ls. Okay, didn't copy. Brilliant. So I don't need to remove it. And I need to recompile my program and just run it again, okay? So maybe I'll clear. And then where am I going on permissions? Okay, 1000. So the 1000 is there, just in case anyone was kind of thinking the example's not matching what he's talking about. So there's the 1000 there, okay? So it's really, in our little example, we've hard-coded our two values in here. So that's just one. I just wanted to give a demo to show how this is, how this is working and what's involved with it. If this is causing anyone a little bit of hassle or problems, the same again, we keep calling it separation of concerns. Separate it out into a simple example, so something similar to what I have here. Maybe wrap it or encapsulate this functionality into a function and then bring it back in. Same again, back to the jigsaw. We have another piece of the puzzle, bring it back in, let it perform a particular task for us, okay? So I suppose the last piece of the puzzle would be to make sure that, we synchronize access to this. It's a shared resource, and we shouldn't have concurrent access to something like this. We'd be swapping different accounts and setting different user IDs or changing IDs and setting different groups and what's not of it. So this is the piece of the puzzle that we're trying to protect, okay? So I hope you find this helpful. And same again, if you have any issues or any problems or any questions you'd like to ask, just send me an email, okay? Thanks guys, see you later, bye.